Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive. As we wrap up 2024, I'm sure a lot of you are thinking about your finances and how to make your money work smarter in the coming year.
Yeah, absolutely. And from what I've been seeing, it seems like this year was all about taking control and making proactive financial decisions.
So less about doom and gloom predictions and more about what can I do to get ahead.
Exactly. It's about empowerment, not just reacting to the economy, but actually making conscious choices to reach those financial goals.
And I've noticed a lot of experts are emphasizing the power of budgeting.
Oh, for sure. But it's not about restriction the way some people might think.
Right. When you hear budget, you think, I can't spend anything.
Yeah, totally. But it's more about making a plan for your money, a plan that aligns with your own values and priorities.
So it's less about feeling controlled by your money and more about saying, hey, I'm the one in charge here.
Exactly. Think about what you want to achieve. A down payment on a house, early retirement, even just feeling less stressed about bills. A budget can help you break down those big goals into smaller, more manageable steps.
It's like having a roadmap instead of driving around aimlessly and hoping you'll reach your destination.
That's a great analogy.
And speaking of navigating uncertainty, 2024 threw us some curveballs.
It definitely did. And it really underscored how important it is to have a solid emergency fund.
So how much are we talking about here? What's considered solid?
Most experts suggest having at least 3 to 6 months worth of living expenses saved up, just in case.
That makes a lot of sense. But building that kind of cushion can feel daunting, especially with prices going up everywhere.
I hear you. But even small, consistent contributions add up. And here's a tip. High-yield savings accounts are offering some pretty good interest rates right now, something like 4 to 5%.
So your money's actually growing while it's sitting there ready to be your financial superhero.
Exactly.
I like that. But we can't ignore the elephant in the room, impulse spending.
Oh, it's a real struggle, especially with e-commerce and those targeted ads.
It's like they know what I want before I even do.
Right. They're good at what they do.
Huh.
But there are ways to resist those urges.
Like what?
Well, first, unsubscribe from those tempting emails. Out of sight, out of mind,
Makes sense.
And try using ad blockers to minimize those targeted ads. You can also implement what's called the 24-hour rule.
Oh, you mean like giving yourself a full day to think about a purchase before you actually buy it?
Exactly. It creates some space between that initial impulse and actually spending the money.
Yeah.
This way you can make a more mindful decision.
I like that. Now, another trend that really caught my eye in 2024 was the rise of entrepreneurship. It feels like everyone is turning their side hustles into actual businesses.
It's more than just a side hustle movement. It's a shift in how people are thinking about work and building wealth. Owning a business, even a small one, can give you certain tax advantages and more opportunities to build wealth compared to a traditional job.
So it's about creating your own opportunities.
Exactly. And this actually ties into another important lesson we saw emerge this year. Contentment over comparison.
Oh, that's huge. It's so easy to get caught up in keeping up with the Joneses, especially with social media.
It really is. It's like everyone's only showing their highlight reel, which makes it seem like you're always falling behind.
And that kind of comparison can lead to some bad financial decisions.
For sure. When you're focused on what other people have, you don't appreciate what you have, and you might not make choices that align with your own goals.
So how do you avoid that trap?
It's as much a mental game as it is financial. Cultivating gratitude for what you already have can go a long way.
That makes sense.
Focus on your own journey. Celebrate your wins. And don't be afraid to tune out the noise.
So we've covered budgeting emergency funds, resisting those impulse buys, and the importance of contentment. What other money lessons should we be taking away from 2024?
Well, beyond those basics, there's a growing emphasis on really upping your savings and investment game. Just having a basic savings account isn't enough anymore.
So we need to be more strategic about how we grow our money, especially with inflation eating away at our purchasing power.
Exactly. High-yield savings accounts are good for your emergency fund. But for long-term growth, you might want to look at other options like index funds, ETFs, even something called digital cash stuffing.
Hold on. Index funds, ETFs? Those sound a bit intimidating.
They might sound complicated, but they're pretty straightforward. An index fund basically tracks a specific market index, like the S&P 500. So instead of picking individual stocks, you're investing in a basket of stocks that represent a larger part of the market.
So it's a way to diversify your investments without needing to be a Wall Street expert.
Exactly. And ETFs work similarly, but they're traded on stock exchanges like individual stocks. They offer more flexibility. And digital cash stuffing, well, it's like the digital version of the envelope budgeting system.
Oh, yeah. You divide your cash into different envelopes for different spending categories. So digital cash stuffing is like assigning virtual envelopes to your digital money.
That's a great way to think about it. You're using budgeting apps and digital platforms to allocate your money visually and keep track of your spending more effectively.
That sounds like it could be really helpful for people who are more visual with their budgeting. But with all these options, how do you know which ones are right for you?
That's where doing your research comes in. Maybe even talking to a financial advisor. It's about knowing your risk tolerance, your financial goals, and how long you plan to invest.
So no one-size-fits-all approach. It's about finding the right strategies for your own situation.
Exactly. And the great thing is even small changes can make a big difference over time thanks to the power of compounding.
Oh, right, the snowball effect.
Exactly. The earlier you start investing, even with small amounts, the more time your money has to grow. It's like planting a tree. The best time was 20 years ago. The second best time is today.
I love that analogy. It really shows that you don't need a ton of money to start investing. Even small, consistent contributions can make a difference. And speaking of making things easier, it seems like digital finance is making managing your money so much more convenient.
It really is. Budgeting apps, online banking, digital investment platforms. They're all meant to make your financial life simpler and more efficient.
I bet those tools are especially appealing to younger generations who are already so comfortable using their phones for everything.
Definitely. It's about having access to your financial information and tools whenever and wherever you need them. But even with all these great tools, it's important to remember some classic wisdom.
Okay, I'm listening. What wisdom do we need to remember?
It's about resisting lifestyle inflation.
Ah, yes. The classic trap of upgrading your lifestyle every time you get a raise or a promotion. Feels good in the moment, but it can really sabotage your long-term goals.
For sure. It's so tempting to fall into that cycle. Earn more, spend more, and always feel like you need the next best thing.
Like you're running on a treadmill, working harder and harder, but not getting any closer to where you want to be.
Perfect analogy. Instead of upgrading your lifestyle automatically, what if you use that extra money for savings investments or paying off debt faster?
So choosing delayed gratification over instant gratification. Investing in your future self instead of indulging your present self.
Exactly. And while we're talking about future planning, we can't forget about taxes.
Ugh. Yes, taxes. They can be a bit of a headache.
I know. But they're important, especially with all the attention on side hustle income and online earnings these days. Understanding the rules and how to potentially benefit can make a big difference for business owners and freelancers.
So it's not just about paying your taxes. It's about being smart about it.
Exactly. Knowing how to maximize deductions and use any tax credits that apply can really impact your bottom line. And this leads to one of my favorite concepts that came up this year, making your money work for you even while you sleep.
Ah, the dream of passive income. Sounds amazing, but a little too good to be true.
It might sound like a fantasy, but it's more achievable than you think. It's about shifting your mindset. Instead of just thinking about earning more, it's about making your money work harder for you.
So like building a financial engine that generates income even when you're not actively working.
Exactly. You're not trading your time for money in the same way.
Okay, so what are some examples of these passive income streams?
Well, investments are a classic example. We talked about index funds and ETFs earlier. Those can generate passive income through dividends and long-term growth. Then there's rental properties.
So you buy a property and rent it out to tenants and collect those monthly rent checks.
Exactly. Of course, it comes with its own set of responsibilities, managing the property and handling any maintenance. But it can be a great way to build wealth over time.
And then there's the whole world of online business and digital products.
Oh, absolutely. Creating and selling online courses, ebooks, digital templates, even things like stock photos or music. All of these can generate income without needing a traditional 9-to-5 job.
So it's about using your skills and creativity to create assets that can earn money even while you sleep.
That's the idea. And it's really interesting how these individual money lessons connect to the bigger economic trends we saw in 2024.
Yeah, like how inflation forced everyone to rethink their spending habits and really prioritize needs over wants.
For sure. Rising costs made people more budget conscious and made them look for ways to stretch their dollar further. We also saw a growing trend towards frugality and sustainability.
It's like people are realizing that true wealth isn't about just accumulating stuff. It's more about living a fulfilling life within your means.
That's a great point. I think that's one of the key takeaways from this year. It's not just about chasing wealth. It's about achieving financial well-being, feeling secure and empowered and in control of your finances.
So if we had to sum up the biggest money lessons of 2024, what would you say they are?
I think it boils down to mindfulness, strategic planning, and taking ownership of your financial journey.
Okay, so mindfulness in terms of being aware of our spending habits and knowing where our money's going.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And strategic planning means setting clear financial goals and creating a plan to reach them. Whether it's budgeting, investing, or even starting a business, it's all about making intentional choices that line up with your values and goals.
So taking control instead of letting your finances control you.
Exactly. It's about being proactive and making your money work for you, not the other way around.
It's been a wild year, but there's definitely a lot we can learn from it. And I have a feeling these lessons will continue to be relevant for a long time.
Oh, absolutely. The economy might change, but these core principles of financial well-being are always going to be important.
So for our listeners who are ready to take charge of their finances in 2025, what's the most important piece of advice you can give them?
Don't let the big picture overwhelm you. Start by taking small, actionable steps today.
Small steps lead to big changes, right?
Exactly. You don't have to do everything at once. Maybe it's setting up a budget, automating your savings, or even just doing some research on a new investment. The key is to start moving in the right direction.
That's great advice. And remember, you don't have to do this alone. There are tons of resources out there to help you. Financial advisors, budgeting apps, even podcasts like ours.
That's right. There's a wealth of information available, so use it.
We've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive. It's been fascinating to explore these financial lessons from 2024. Before we wrap up, I want to leave our listeners with one final thought-provoking question. What's one action you can take today to make your money work harder for you in 2025?
That's a great question to think about. It doesn't have to be some huge, life-altering decision. Maybe it's finally opening that high-yield savings account, making an extra payment on your debt, or simply committing to tracking your spending for a month.
It's about taking that first step, no matter how small, and building from there.
Exactly. Remember, financial empowerment is a journey, not a destination. And every step you take, even the smallest one, gets you closer to where you want to be.
I love that. It's about progress, not perfection. And it's about embracing the process and enjoying the ride along the way.
Well said.
This has been such an insightful deep dive. Thank you for sharing your expertise and helping our listeners make sense of the world of personal finance.
It's been my pleasure.
And for everyone listening, remember, you've got this. Take control, make smart choices, and watch your financial well-being thrive in 2025 and beyond.
Here's to a financially empowered new year.
It's about feeling good about the choices you're making and feeling confident about your financial future.
Yeah, having a plan and knowing you're on the right track, even if there are some bumps in the road.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the financial lessons from 2024, what's the one thing you really want our listeners to remember?
I think the biggest takeaway is that you have the power to create your own financial future. It starts with being aware and then taking action.
It doesn't have to be a huge change, right?
Not at all. Even just setting a financial goal for next year is a great starting point.
So it's not about waiting for things to happen, it's about making them happen.
Exactly. And don't forget, personal finance is personal. What works for someone else might not work for you. It's all about finding what fits your situation and your goals.
And it's okay to experiment and make adjustments along the way.
Of course. The key is to keep learning, keep growing, and keep refining your approach.
Well said. Well, it's been great diving deep into this with you. Your insights have been incredibly helpful.
I've enjoyed it.
And to everyone listening, thank you for joining us on this journey of financial discovery. Remember, knowledge is power. By using what you've learned, you can build a brighter and more financially secure future for yourself.
Here's to a prosperous and fulfilling 2025.
Until next time, happy investing.